Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the WDW Travel Show. It is Monday night at 9 o'clock Magic Kingdom time, and we're glad you have chosen to join with us. Tonight, we're going to talk about a topic that has definitely got everybody's attention over the last few days, and that, of course, is the, Starbucks coming to the Magic Kingdom, and in particularly to the Main Street Bakery. So we have a special guest coming in tonight. We'll talk about that. And much, much more. But welcome to the show, and don't forget to go to our website if you would like to participate and would like to get involved in the chat room. That's at WDWTravelShow.com. When you get there, click on the Live tab, the Live page, and you'll be able to watch this stream. If you're watching it from Google right now or from YouTube, you can also watch it from there, and we do have a chat room set up there where you can ask questions as well. So if we can get everybody to come on in, we will talk about what is going on in the world, and we have our usual gang of suspects, and I will begin at least on my screen, to my, I guess it's my left if I'm looking at it, to my right if I'm sitting. Aljon, go. Aljon, what's going on?
Hey, Ed, what's going on with you? We are happy to be back for yet another Monday night of good-natured fun and Disney discussion. You might know me. I am the station manager at Sorcerer Radio, one of the leading radio stations that is fan-run, that supplies Disney music for the entire universe. So feel free to log in to srsounds.com. I also co-host the WDW Tiki Room podcast, as well as host JediMasketeer.com, your first and only site for all things Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel. Yes, I called it years ago, and now it has come to fruition. All things geeky under one banner, and I'm very happy about that. And I moved to my broadcast colleague, I've always wanted to say that, Kristen Hetzel.
I'm Kristen Hetzel. I am the owner, operator, blogger of CookingWithMickeyBlog.com, where I talk about my favorite topic, that is Disney, and that is food and dining. I'm also a travel agent with Magical Journeys.
All right. Well, my name's Eddie Owen, of course. Most of you know me. I've been a broadcaster most of my life, fooled around with travel and blogging and fooling around on the internet and all this, and this is what we love to do every Monday night, the WDW Travel Show. We have a special guest tonight, and you'll see her on the screen as well, and this is Melody from StabucksMelody.com, and Melody is a fan-based, or a Starbucks fan blogger, I guess is the term. Does that make sense, Melody? Is that a good term?
Yeah, I think that does make sense. It is a Starbucks fan blog. So, yes, I run StabucksMelody.com. I assume that was a natural segue there. And I've been doing that for about 3 years, and so I can answer a bazillion Starbucks-related questions. I do actually genuinely really love Disneyland. I mean, who doesn't love Disneyland? I grew up in Orange County, not very far from the Disneyland in Anaheim, so I have lots of memories of going to Disneyland as a kid, and I remember before there was a California Adventure Park, and went with my family often, so it's really easy to be in love with Disneyland as well. And I've been to also the Starbucks in the California Adventure Park.
Okay, well, and that's one of the reasons when we discovered Melody the other night, and the fact that she had been there, and guys, let's talk a little bit about this week, because you know, we all know that Disney fans are territorial. They are protective. They don't like, in certain things, change. And people have been bouncing off the ceilings all week about this Starbucks announcement. And really, this was old news that it was coming. It was just new news on the particulars. Kristen, when did they make the actual announcement?
Of
Starbucks. One? It was like in April or May, somewhere.
Yeah, it was like April 23rd, I believe, is when they made the announcement that Starbucks would appear in all 6 parks.
And you know, little was said about this until this week, when the announcement was made that Starbucks would take over the Main Street Bakery. Everybody that goes to Walt Disney World has memories of the bakery. You walk in, I mean, there's all this beautiful food. There are these incredible smells, and I think people are worried that that's going to go away, and that's not necessarily the case. And which is one of the reasons we wanted to have Melody on here. Melody, tell us a little bit, if you would, about the event you went to back in June at California Adventure for the Starbucks there.
Sure. Oh, I have an advertisement that just popped up on my thing here. Let me close this. I'm new to Google Hangouts as well and trying to get the hang of this. And I apologize for that weird advertisement that just popped up out of nowhere. So in June of this year, Starbucks opened up the store in California Adventure Park on Buena Vista Street. And I think the official date was June 15th. I wrote it in my blog. And I managed to get down there one day early. There was media preview events that were going on, I think, for a couple of days beforehand. And I actually barely got to it on time. I literally got on the plane from Seattle that day and flew down that day and grabbed my mom because my mother lives in Orange, not very far from Disneyland. And the two of us went to the California Adventure Park and the Starbucks. And we were there probably an hour before it closed. And it was very quiet. I took a bunch of photos and asked a bunch of questions because the Starbucks fans are also very territorial as well. You know, you can kind of see that the two brands both really want to protect their interests and who they are. And if it was an arm wrestling match, I would actually kind of say that Disney won the arm wrestling match. I mean, there's very little in the way. It doesn't jump out as a Starbucks cafe. There are no green aprons. The logo is not prominently placed. There's almost nothing in the way of Starbucks branded merchandise. Well, there is nothing. So it's a Disney cafe that offers Starbucks beverages is what it felt like to me. By the way, I need to check out your blog, cookingwithmickeyblog.com. That sounds like a great idea for a blog.
Thank you.
I want Mickey Mouse in my kitchen.
Well, let's talk about, guys, if you would, let's talk about why people have been opposed to this or why they've been worried about this and perhaps have overreacted. I mean, I think people are, you know, as I posted yesterday in a group, you're not going to stand at the train station and see a Starbucks sign between you and the castle. I mean, it's just not going to be that way. And we have to have a certain amount of faith in the Disney company that they are going to protect the brand, that it's going to look good, that it's going to fit in. And I think that as we get into this, you'll see more and more, and we have some pictures in a little bit of things where you'll see some of the foods and all, that actually many of the foods may not go away. This may be a win-win situation for everyone because you're still going to have that smell, that sells food. You're still going to have the things that you've liked about it, plus maybe some better coffee. Aljon, Kristen, I mean, I know you guys have been watching this kind of upheaval. You know, I equated it today to the angry villagers coming in with torches because they're not happy about this change. What do you think?
Kristen,
I don't think people realize that the biggest comment has been Starbucks is modern. It's coming in. It's going to ruin the look of Main Street. You know, corporate businesses shouldn't be on Main Street. However, I don't think people realize that there are two company brands that are shoved in your face already on Main Street in Disney, and there's one of them in Disneyland that is actually the name of the cafe. And why is it that they don't realize that with this? Why is that not a problem, but Starbucks is going to be a problem?
Perhaps because an existing, I'm just guessing here, a feature that's been around for 40 years that has been virtually unchanged now has that thing. I do want to show you. We have a lot of pictures that we got from Stabucks Melody blog, and you do have, and we'll ask you to do a little bit more about your blog posting you did, Melody. But I do want to show this one picture here. If people are worried about the look of this. Now, this is these are some of the employees at the
I remember that.
yeah at the Starbucks at Disneyland. Now, that is not exactly what I would call your typical Starbucks look. It's, I mean, at anything, it looks exactly like what you would expect to see at a Disney restaurant. So, you know, for people to think that this thing is going to be, you know, just smack you in the face with corporate America is, you know, and I understand people having this thing about, not wanting change and blah blah blah. But it may be just a little silly, that we've gotten this carried away with it.
I think. Well, Melody, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I think that perhaps I can understand where Disney fans are very protective of what's been sort of established for a very, very long time. I mean, one thing about California Adventure Park is that it's relatively new. Like, it didn't exist when I was a kid. And so it's easier to put something new in a park that is itself fairly new than something that has decades of history. But when I walked into that cafe, by the way, that was a very shy group of employees. They didn't really want their photo taken, I don't think. It just felt like a Disney cafe, and I could understand if you were in Disneyland, as you walk down Main Street, as I recall, there's a big Carnation Cafe. Kristen, do you know what I'm talking about?
I know that is exactly the place I was thinking of when I said that there is a place where the brand name is in the name of the restaurant. It is Carnation Cafe, and it's not named after the flower, it's named after the brand. But nobody has a problem with that.
Right, exactly. But it's been there since I was a child, so it's been there. Plus, probably, well, I'm not in my 50s, but I would imagine that's been there like 50 years.
I believe the Carnation Cafe in Carnation has been a title sponsor for Disneyland since opening day in 1955. Correct me if I'm wrong, and there are probably Disney fanatics out there that are punching their keyboard right now going, Aljon, you're wrong, it came out in 67. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I've done some research that I posted in our research for tonight's episode, and I do believe they are one of the primary sponsors that date back all the way to opening day, at least very close to opening day, at least since the mid-60s. So,
Melody, I might ask you to turn your volume down just a tad. I think it's feeding back through your speaker there. But today we were talking about this very subject. Kristen and I and Aljon were emailing back and forth about the number of corporate sponsors that are at Disney. And this is probably a thing that is more geared toward what the impact's going to be of this specific sponsor in or on Main Street, etc. But Kristen, do you have that list there? Could you just read off some of the names?
I did, yeah. And before I read that off, I'm going to mention the two that I'm talking about on Main Street that are huge sponsors already. Big corporations. One is Edie's Ice Cream. Plaza Ice Cream is Edie's. Everything in it says Edie's. Anybody who has ever eaten at Casey's Corner, Coca-Cola. Walk in, the entire place is like a Coca-Cola museum. You've got Coca-Cola prints, Coca-Cola lanterns, Coca-Cola bottles. I mean, everything is Coke. So that's why I'm not seeing what is the difference between that. And it doesn't affect the way those businesses look. They still looks like Main Street. Starbucks isn't going to be any different. But here's a list of ones I could think of. Kodak sponsors Imagination, Muppet Vision 3D, PhilharMagic, and all of the guide maps. And speaking of guide maps, it screams on this. Wrong one. The bottom, you got the nice little Kodak emblem, but look at the back of your map. Kodak. So there's, nobody complains about that. Coca-Cola sponsors Club Cool, 50s Prime Time, Backlot Express, the Cool Station in the back of DHS, which is the big Coca-Cola bottle that sprays out mist. You have the Electric Umbrella in Casey's Corner. The Dole Whip, the home of the Dole Whip, hence Dole, as in Dole Pineapple, and that's at Aloha Isle. You've got Test Track, MGM, which screams MGM. I mean, it's got MGM cards in it.
GM.
Huh?
You said MGM. It's GM.
Oh, GM, sorry.
General Motors.
More General Motors.
Rock and Roller Coaster on the big sign of the guitar is a giant red pick that says Haynes. I already mentioned Edie's. Verizon is a sponsor. Liberty Tree Tavern, the previous sponsor to, I believe right now it's Ocean Spray Cran Raisins, prior to that, it was Stouffer's, and so everything you ate there was Stouffer's. You had the Stouffer's mac and cheese, Stouffer's stuffing, Stouffer's. Triple A is a sponsor, which is why they have AAA Diamond Parking, and Visa, hence Disney Visa. So those are the ones I could think of that were sponsors.
Well, you know, the only thing that's not sponsored are the turkey legs.
That's
Right?
When you think about it, I mean, everything, and you go back, this goes back to the opening days of Walt Disney World. You had Eastern Airlines, you know, if you had Wings, you had all these ones that have, you know, even phased out now.
Yeah. TWA,
So,
you know, the Dream Flight, you know, you had the TWA for the Mission to Mars back in the day.
HP, that's the one I forgot about. HP, Mission Space has HP.
I mean, it's pretty obvious, you know, how all of those corporate symbols are out there, corporate logos that are out there.
Oh, I know, I forgot the big one. Sylvania, a Siemens company.
Yeah.
Reflections of Earth and Spaceship Earth. I mean, think when you leave, it says Siemens on the giant attraction, you know?
well, I think what you're going to find, though, I think what I have noticed, and all the people, and if you're watching on the from Google Plus, or if you're watching from YouTube, go to our website. You can watch from there, and also we have the chat room open. You put your 2 cents worth in. The biggest complaints I have seen, or the biggest concerns I have seen, there are certain key foods at the cafe that people like. And they're afraid they're going to lose those. They're afraid that the motif or the ambiance is going to be changed. And you know, and we have our little group, our little Nashville group, and there was quite a discussion going on about this. I only think I saw one person that thought this was a good idea, because now they could finally get a cup of coffee. A good cup of coffee. Two people.
I'm all for Starbucks. We just had Starbucks today, by the way.
and I'll jump in and say 3, because now that I've studied it, I don't think it's going to be any big deal. But
we're friends already. I hope you'll go visit my blog at some point.
You know that's right.
And by the way, we will definitely put we'll have a link on the blog, on our blog tonight, with a link to Melody's blog, and also we will have a video on there that we found that gives you a tour of the California Starbucks. But Melody, if you would, talk about when you went to the blog, and I've got a series of pictures here. We'll show these in a little bit and kind of walk through them and talk about them. But talk about the difference between maybe the offering that a typical Starbucks has compared to the one at Disneyland. And here's something I found out last night, ladies and gentlemen, talking to Melody. You're not overly keen on Starbucks food offerings.
Oh,
Is
no.
that correct?
No, actually. I mean, there's been murmurings for a long time that Starbucks is going to overhaul their food offerings. And that, the big stuff was when they announced earlier this year that they purchased a bakery called La Valanche. And how do you pronounce your name? Aljon?
Aljon.
Aljon. You're nodding your head. Anyway, at some point in 2013, I think we'll see Starbucks pastries completely overhauled in favor of the La Valanche recipes. So those were sort of supposedly French bakeries. I'm not familiar with them yet, but if you walk into one thing that's noticeable, this is why I think Disney won the arm wrestling. In any Starbucks, one of the things that every Starbucks has is like a whole bean wall. There's no whole bean even being sold at these. This isn't where you go to buy a pound of coffee. I mean, it really is strictly beverages and some standard Starbucks foods. So when I went, I saw a huge pastry case of a wide array of everything from Big Mickey Mouse cookies to the classic Starbucks lemon pound cake, which I think is one of the more disgusting items that sells so very well.
Melody, let me just show right here. This is from your blog, and this is one of the cases that we're talking about. And what do you see? First and foremost, standing out, knocking you down, Mickey Mouse's head.
Yeah, that top shelf is standard Starbucks food, which probably that will go through an overhaul in 2013, and it won't look like that in the future. And then there was far more Disney food than there was Starbucks food. I mean, I think it's a place where the idea is for the mazillion and one people who want a Frappuccino, they can get easily their favorite coffee Frappuccino or mocha Frappuccino. I don't think the idea is that anybody's going to go in and have a coffee tasting with a pound of Kenya and a pound of Verona blend and learn the differences in growing regions.
on this.
I don't think that ever be even. I can't imagine. It would be almost humorous to me to see one of those characters as a coffee master.
You know, that could happen.
No.
That could happen. And answer me this, Melody, because you may know more than myself, but I also heard that the baristas there that go through the training, the Disney training as cast members, also go through the Starbucks training as well. So they're doubly schooled in terms of customer service, because I know that Starbucks employees in general are very customer oriented. They go through a rigorous amount of training in order to do what they do, and I believe that is going to be transferred over to the Disney employees as well. Is that correct?
I hope so. I mean, Starbucks over the years, I think the amount of customer training that they've given hasn't maintained its high platform, and it's kind of gone down. But I see really superb customer service, and a lot of baristas still learn, like, for example, the latte method of dealing with complaints: listen, acknowledge, take action, thank, and encourage. And I hadn't heard about that training, but it would not surprise me. Starbucks is very, very rigorous that every new person who comes and represents their brand go through some kind of immersion training. I mean, their corporate executives get thrown into stores as baristas for 2 weeks before they're allowed to take a corporate position. And so it doesn't surprise me at all, and that makes sense. And from what I can see, Starbucks still pretty much emphasizes their four main values are that you be genuine, you be welcome, you be knowledgeable, and you're involved in your community. And I mean, one of the reasons I love Starbucks is that they still seem to manage to do that mostly, I mean, not with perfection, but across 7,000 cafes across the United States, which is just kind of amazing. And I think they're licensed partners. They're still licensed partners, district managers. They're still accountable to somebody within the Starbucks Corporation. And I think they do get a lot of training on customer service.
By the way, folks, you're on the WDW Travel Show for Monday night. We are talking about Starbucks coming to Walt Disney World, and in particular to the Main Street Bakery. And Melody from StabucksMelody.com is our guest tonight. Melody, if you would, tell us how you got this, how the whole thing about the blog started. And you get a tremendous amount of traffic, you know, with that many stores and people looking up Starbucks. You get a tremendous amount of traffic on your blog.
I do. I mean, I'm not the only Starbucks blog out there. There's actually quite a few people who have tried it, and I have a huge advantage that I'm right here in Seattle in the headquarters. I mean, I laughed. I'm sorry, Ed, but when you told me you were in Tennessee, I'm thinking that must be a really hard place to have at Walt Disney World. I mean, wouldn't it be easier if you were in Florida or in Anaheim? So I started the blog in 2009, and there were some events that Starbucks did where they really did customer reaching out to customers. Actually, I have a really long blog article on Thanksgiving blend talking about a customer event, which was a roasting event at the headquarters. And I won't recount the whole thing here because it would be long and boring. But I felt really inspired and connected, and I realized that there were a lot of people who really love Starbucks, and I wasn't alone. And then over the years, what I've discovered is that the blog, I mean, I just consistently keep updating it with new stories and new articles, and lots of people want to kind of join in as sort of an online community, and it's a very, very worldwide readership. I'll get emails from people who say, you know, I'm a Starbucks partner in Wrocław, Poland, or I'm a partner in Vienna, Austria. And you know, right now, it goes up and down as with any website, as I'm sure you know. But I mean, I average roughly about 40,000 unique visitors a month and about 70 to 80,000 page views a month right now. So
that is tremendous. Well, in talking about this in this procedure here, let's also state one thing: Starbucks is not new to cooperation among entertainment companies. They put their first Starbucks on Royal Caribbean ships in the last 2 years, so they're kind of used to doing this stuff. And if you go on like Allure of the Seas or one of the new mega ships, you're going to find a Starbucks on there. So they're very much in tune with what's going on. I tell you what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go back to these pictures, and I'm just going to start through them. We'll kind of scroll through them and talk a little bit about them. And Melody, if you would, if you'll just kind of hop in as you see them and give us an idea of what we are looking at here.
Well, that's the menu board. That's not a typical Starbucks menu board in any way. It's a little bit simplified. There are fewer beverages listed. Like you don't see, I don't remember seeing the chai tea lattes on there, but it's a little bit simplified. Really designed to jump out and like sell the sort of the standard beverages like a frappuccino or just a basic cup of coffee. And notice how small the siren is on the menu board. That's definitely that's not a standard Starbucks menu board in any way.
We still have to go with the standard venti and all that stuff?
Yes, the sizes are traditional Starbucks sizes, tall, grande, venti. They don't have short. Licensed stores typically don't offer the 8-ounce size of beverage. I don't remember, actually, well, we'll see when we take the picture of the cup, but I don't remember there being a short cup.
Now, this is the picture we looked at earlier. And you tend to think, based on your experience, that if there are 4 shelves of food, half of it will probably be traditional Disney fare, and then half of it will be the Starbucks fare.
I think more than half will be Disney fare. I mean, that top shelf is all Starbucks food, and I think there was a little bit more Starbucks food mixed in below, but this is almost entirely Disney food. I mean, I think those muffins next to Disney's head, or next to Mickey's head, might have been Starbucks muffins, but I would say that 70% of the food was Disney food, maybe 80%.
And again, these pictures we borrowed from Melody's blog, StabucksMelody.com, and here's that traditional 4. This is the traditional case like you'll see in most Starbucks with the 4 levels on it. And let's see, I think we have some pictures here of maybe the typical outside.
That's not typical either.
Yeah, folks, I was going to say, if you're worried about the logo imposing itself on Main Street, that's what you got to look at right there. I look forward to.
I actually think it would be fascinating to see which logo they use for the new one in Walt Disney World. That's actually a really unusual logo because it's the 2008 cleaned up original logo. The original Starbucks logo from the 70s and 80s had a belly button and nipples. And on that logo, the belly button's been wiped off, and when the 2008 version gave her a lot more hair to neatly cover up, exposed nipples, and so it's the cleaned up 2008 logo.
Of course, there's an interior shot. It looks like. Of course, this is not your typical Starbucks. This thing's pretty good size.
Oh, that's a huge lobby. Yeah, like I said, Disney won. This doesn't look like a Starbucks at all in terms of the seating or the design. And there's, like I said, there's not typical, you don't see a merchandise wall where you could buy a French press. There's no barista bears available for sale. I mean, there's nothing in the way of like merchandise. The only thing that I saw that was any kind of Starbucks merchandise, which wasn't for sale, was just happened to be in this the very, very back wall. In one of the photos, you can see a display of coffee mugs. And one of them is a coffee mug that's a Starbucks mug. And
there's your typical outside, stanchion, which gives you an idea of what's available inside. Very, very Disney-esque. I think you've got your little logo there at the bottom. Melody, you said that you don't see the Starbucks merchandise there being offered, but is it available if you want it? Is it kind of hidden, or do they not actually sell it there?
There's absolutely, you can't buy an icon mug, you can't buy French press or a pour over or a grinder or any of those things. I mean, it's really a place to go get beverages, is what it is.
Okay.
And that's not nothing about this is typical. The only thing that's remarkable about this condiment counter is at least the 3 containers of milk for your coffee are all very standard like that. There's only 3 containers.
Again, there's the employees looking so un-Disney-like.
Looking so unhappy that somebody wanted to take a photo of them.
Well, first of all, Melody,
they kind of have that beaches and cream look, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, the pictures look great. So good on you for doing that. I think a lot of people were so quick to judge, as Ed had maybe touched on earlier in the show, that Starbucks was gonna come by, and of course, he names the tonight's episode "Starbucks Invades Walt Disney World" or whatever the case was, Ed, when you
I
titled
think that
the
was
show
right.
today. But I think, as you can see, it's very, it's very Disney, and like you said, Melody, I'm sure they had to concede a lot to Disney's wishes, which is not typical, which is very typical for many vendors that do come into the park. That this is what they sign up for. This is how how they see their brand working in the confines of the Disney structure. And for Kristen and myself, who are Starbucks fans, it's great. I'm glad, you're finally going to be able to get a cup of coffee that's decent over there, So I'm a big fan of that. Ooh, bless you. What's printer running in the background?
Something's running somewhere. Again, there's another, your sign up there with your items on it. That's the last picture. So, again, I think, the thing that people were concerned about, are we going to lose our smell? Are we going to lose our image of downtown? I think none of that is going to happen, at least based on what they've done in California.
I think when it comes to the smell thing, people are getting confused with Main Street Confectionery. That's where the smell comes from, that they're piping it out. It's not the bakery that the smell is coming from. So I think some people are getting those two confused.
Yeah, like me.
Well, but I've heard people say that, like, the smell's not going to be there anymore, and it's like that's not where the smell is.
Well,
like,
and I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but we were talking to someone yesterday who worked there, and that smell is, now don't tell anybody, piped in. It's not totally real, folks. They have a little spray can thing that sprays it through there, which is great. I mean, it smells wonderful. Who cares? As long as it works. So.
It's the Lotso effect.
Yeah, Melody. When they got ready to open up Disneyland, how did you end up making the trip? And getting your press credentials and all that? Because you were there the day before it opened. It was a press junket.
Yes. Well, I'd heard for a while that there would be a Starbucks in California Adventure Park, because they announced it obviously well before they opened it up. And like I said, my mom lives in Orange County, and so I thought, well, this is a great excuse to go home. And my blog is at the point where definitely the Starbucks PR department knows who I am. And I basically emailed somebody that I knew. I'm like, hey, can you get me a couple of passes? And I wasn't really sure what I was asking for, but I thought, the cost of a ticket is so much. I thought, well, maybe they'll just give me a ticket. And I wasn't actually expecting it to be a media preview pass at all. And I got back an email that the PR department was then going to work with the Disney PR people, and that, there were, all of a sudden it was like, well, when are you going to actually be there? There's a media preview day on the 14th, which they hadn't mentioned before, and all of this came from one, like, can you get me a ticket? And next thing I knew, there was one waiting for me at the entrance when I walked in for myself and my mom.
Well, I want to encourage everybody to go to your blog, and again, it is stabucksmelody.com. We'll put the link on the website. You had a feature a couple of days ago that was fascinating to me, because I have been following the storage container construction business for a long time, where people are building homes and buildings out of old storage containers, and you actually had a blog posting about some storage container Starbucks, and you never would have guessed it to look at them with the pictures and all that.
Oh yeah, that's something new. So the first one opened up in Seattle, and I do have. Did you click through to the original article in December of last year on the original?
This was on your opening page, I believe. I just clicked over to your blog. Let me be honest. I just saw it on your blog. I'm not sure where it was from.
Well, so if you look at that article, there's a link in it to the original December 2011 one, which was the first shipping container Starbucks in Tukwila, Washington, which was the first time they tried that design. And it's kind of a cute little story. I mean, it's amazing that a shipping container can be made to look so good. And that is sort of astonishing to me. And it's been a really slow experimentation. They opened a second one in Denver, and a reader sent me a couple of photos, which were prominently placed on the recent article, so you saw those Denver photos. And it looks even nicer than the one that they opened in Tukwila. They must have learned some lessons over the past 1 year. And one person in the comment said that there would be a future location in Chicago area, but I've heard Houston. So I think that there'll be more of those shipping container Starbucks coming. I mean, they'll be pretty slow. They're not rolling them out rapidly, but they're slowly placing them into places that they think they'll work.
It is pretty amazing when you look at that. Kristen or Aljan, either one, let's talk about the timetable of this renovation. So, folks, if you want to get in on the old Main Street Cafe or Main Street Bakery, you need to do it now, because is it January they're going to start the renovation? Is that correct?
In January, the Main Street Bakery will close for refurbishment and open as a Starbucks early summer, and then Fountain View will close in March, and it will reopen midsummer as Starbucks.
Do we know, will it reopen as the Main Street Bakery with a Starbucks in it, or is it going to be, and I think this is probably one thing, again, that gets people upset, change in tradition, is it going to be now Starbucks, or do we know?
It doesn't say, but, you know, considering what they have done with everything else that has been corporately sponsored, and after looking at what they did in California Adventure, I don't know why it would be any different. It's not called Starbucks. It's Fiddler, is it Fiddler, Pfeiffer,
Yeah.
and Practical Cafe?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So, and it just has Starbucks in it. So I don't know why it would be any different than that. I would think they would probably still call it Main Street Bakery. You'll probably see some small thing on the outside somewhere, just like Edie's is on the building and Coca-Cola is on the building on Main Street. I'm sure you're going to see Starbucks the same way.
And that's exactly my point. And from what I understand from articles that have been put up as well as press releases, that just because the Main Street Bakery is closing for refurbishment doesn't mean they won't change or keep the name Main Street Bakery. I think a lot of people are quick to judge, and my whole situation is I understand everyone being criticizing this move. However, what they have to realize is that it may and very well could reopen up as the Main Street Bakery with this, probably serving Starbucks or whatever it is, plus having a very subdued logo on the front window, which I believe, and Melody, tell me if this is not correct, but at DCA's Starbucks location, that there's actually a black Starbucks logo that's actually on the window. Is that true?
Wait, there is actually a black Starbucks logo that's used for their beer and wine location, but
Okay.
the logo is normally green.
Yes.
All of the evening Starbucks, which are beer and wine Starbucks, have a black logo somewhere on the store.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I have to admit, I was a little surprised. I was really expecting something. I was expecting green aprons in a Starbucks because I didn't know what to expect when I walked in. And the few photos that I've seen from Googling about the Starbucks that's in Disney Paris, that looks a little bit more like a traditional Starbucks to me than, I think it looks a little bit less Disney-esque, a little more Starbuckian. But, I mean, that was Disney Paris, and who knows what they're thinking over there.
Now, I will say, Disney Parks did report that they will be keeping with the theming, including the costuming, to be consistent with Main Street USA. They're still going to have that early 20th century look, and over at Epcot, because it's going to be in Future World, it would still have a futuristic look. So, from my understanding, is that they're not going to be making much change. It's not like you're going to walk in and it's going to be this modern Starbucks when you enter. That they are keeping with everything that Disney, always does.
And people are probably concerned they'll walk in and hear all this kind of new age music playing, like the Starbucks channel and all that. And I'm sure it's still going to be Disney music, whatever. I know we have a lot of people watching, and folks, if you after hearing all of this, I would be curious to get any reactions. Is this a little bit more subdued than you thought? Do you still have concerns about, what this is going to mean to the Disney brand, to Main Street, all that? It seems to me like everything, I can't say everything is covered, but to me it looks like this is probably going to be a win-win. You're going to have a better coffee, a better selection of coffee, and probably keep the best of what was there originally. So, I don't see how anybody loses in this situation. Do you guys?
I don't. The other thing from, in looking at Melody's pictures, you can see, because there's one, I think it shows 5 shelves to the case, and I believe only the first top 2 have the Starbucks stuff, and it looks like the bottom 3 are all Disney. If you've never been, I don't think you're really going to even, if this is your first visit or you only go maybe once every 3 to 5 years, I don't think you're really even going to notice it. It's just these people who go all the time that think it's going to remove everything Disney. And from what I've read and from what I've seen, from pictures, Melody's blog, it doesn't seem to me that they're really going to be doing any kind of changes to taking away from Disney. I think it's still going to be very Disney. The only difference is you're now just going to have more offers. In addition to the majority of the stuff you already get there, you're going to get better coffee, more selection of coffee. You're not being forced to only go to a couple of places in the entire resort trying to find a cup of coffee that isn't just standard coffee. And now you're going to get the option of having some of the stuff that Starbucks has. Those breakfast sandwiches they offer, some of their baked goods. I mean, I
Bistro
think
box.
Once it's all said and done, I think you're going to have people a lot happier than what they think they're going to be.
I'm not a big coffee drinker. I drink 2 cups in the morning, and then that's it. And I'm done. I drink my last. Of course, I work weird hours, but I drink my last drop of coffee at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm done for the day. But the thing that amazed me when all of this started this week, that with all of the pardon the term, bitching that's been going on about this, that the biggest complaint was they don't have good coffee at Disney World. Now everybody's complaining they don't have good coffee at Disney World, so they bring some good coffee in. Well, now you're taking away, and the more that we started talking about this over the last few days, the more I realized, and especially after talking with and finding Melody's blog and all, this really is probably going to be a very good thing. And let's face it, folks, look at Disney's profits the last few years. They're not going to screw something up. They've been through the analysis of this. They know what the people want. Yeah, occasionally if they do some things that the masses don't like, but they keep rolling on. And I think it's going to end up being a positive once people kind of let it through their head a little bit, and again, as Aljon said, now you're going to have all these new things that you can try that you didn't have before.
Well, I think, too, it's worth mentioning the fact that Disney does a lot of consumer research. You see them at the parks every single day. You see them with clipboards and tablets getting ready to jump on you and give you Mickey Mouse stickers so that you can answer 3 or 4 different questions for them. It's because of consumer demand that this is going on. And if you're not a coffee drinker, great. It doesn't affect you. What it'll do is, once again, as Ed mentioned, give you more options for the park. And if you don't partake and I might sound very blasphemous when I say this, but I'm not a big fan of the turkey leg, even though I have a turkey leg t-shirt. Do I like the pork shank over there at New Fantasyland? Of course I do. But it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. And I also understand keeping the tradition of certain things. Disney Cocoa, and someone in the chat room mentioned that, and Disney pastries. Well, look at the pictures that Melody offers.
Disney Cocoa, yuck.
Yeah, I know. The Disney Cocoa, which is actually just hot water, which I like to call hot water. I'm not a big fan of Disney Cocoa either. So
it's chocolate-flavored water.
Chocolate-flavored water, yeah.
That's
Feel free to write all the hate mail to Jedi Mouseketeer.
One other thing too, it opens up for someone like me who doesn't drink coffee, but yet if there's a Starbucks around during the day, I will go get Frappuccino or something like that. So they know what they're doing in offering this. Aljon, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, and that's one thing I was trying to get at with Melody's blog is the fact that she has perfectly illustrated with the pictures how much of the theming. And if you look at this show on demand on our archive shows on YouTube, look at the pictures from Melody's blog. Visit her blog and look at the article. Look at the pictures and see for yourself how much. And Ed's putting it up now. Look at how much of the theming is Disney, and for people not to worry. And the only reason to worry is after the fact. I think a lot of speculation, a lot of blogs, a lot of people are trying to sensationalize this in order to gain headline hits, and I understand that. But I think it's really important that in the press releases that have been released by Disney, Parks Blog, and Starbucks, everything will be as Melody had reported on her blog, that they will be keeping a lot of Disney-ness in the store itself. So not to worry, you'll still get your Mickey ears. You'll still be able to get all the stuff that you like. You may not be able to get the whoopie pie over at Starbucks, and you may not be able to to get a panini or whatever the case is, but a lot of those things will still be there.
Personally, I think we will see.
What's that, Melody?
There will even be Mickey ears on your napkins.
There'll be Mickey ears on your napkins. If they made a whoopie pie in the shape of Mickey Mouse ears, like a cake pop like that, that would be amazing.
Great idea.
Right?
Yes.
I love that. I love Starbucks cake pops. Haven't had them in a long time, but I love them.
I have to say, in this conversation this evening, I mean, it did make me sort of more aware that when Starbucks opens up their store in Walt Disney World, if they're going to keep it thematically with what's already existing there, you're definitely going to have people in character, early 20s, with the Disney theme more so than the Starbucks theme. I mean, it really seems to me that the big push is let's sell some Starbucks beverages inside a cafe that really is a Disney cafe with Disney food.
Mm-hmm.
I think you will see less intrusion from Starbucks than you see of Coca-Cola and Casey's.
Or Coca-Cola anywhere?
Well, yeah, because, I mean, to me, I think it's Casey's Corner screams Coca-Cola to me. It's like a big Coca-Cola store. So, but I think you'll see an awful lot less brand intrusion coming to this bakery than you will some of the other places that you see.
Hey, I just want to say that we've also, not only have we introduced Melody to the world of Google Hangouts. Now, she's a G+ user, definitely, but last night when I talked to her and when we did our first test Hangout, I said to her, now you need to get this lower third option so you can put your name up there, and she said, oh no, it might be too much. And look at here. I tell you what, folks, while we're doing this, she's gotten involved.
Well, actually, I am brand new to Google Hangouts. So, Ed, thank you very much for introducing me to this and to your group. This is fantastic. But, so I was clicking and I'm like, I realized, like, oh, the app for lower third is right there because it's displayed because the rest of you are using it. But for me, I see it in reverse, and I'm wondering, does it look correct to you guys?
It's supposed to be that way.
It's supposed to be that way?
Yeah. Okay. When you're viewing it, it'll be backwards. Mine looks backwards to me.
Okay. Phew.
Now,
Melody,
Melody, you are in a very similar situation to where we are, in that we are dealing with a brand that we admire and that we like to follow and all of that, and we do this. This is the only show I do. I do some other things. Of course, Aljon and Kristen do about a million things, involved. But can you see yourself maybe starting up a hangout show for Starbucks or something in the future?
No. I barely have time to keep up on the blog that I have. I work full-time. I'm actually an attorney in Seattle. And I had actually at one point even tried to create a Seattle's Best blog, which gets updated like once every 2 months. And Seattle's Best doesn't have the sort of international resonance that Starbucks has. But I can maintain a Starbucks blog, and that's about all I can do.
Well, I was born and raised in Seattle, so I'm with you, Melody.
I do want to check out all of your like Mickey Mouse related and Disney related blogs, all of your blogs, at some point, well, as soon as we're off the line here, offline, I mean,
I
I
think
honestly really do love Disneyland.
I think if you go to our main page, there are links to most of the things that the gang's involved in, SR Sounds and Cooking with Mickey blog, and I don't think Kristen's got some other projects I don't think's up yet, and then Jedi Mouseketeers on there too, I believe in it, Aljon.
Yes, sir.
So all of those are on there. Just go to our main page. I wonder if there are any questions out there, any naysayers, anything that if we've managed to calm the collective nerve of the Disney community about this, because we were going to talk about something totally different tonight, and then this was such a big to do that again, 30 minutes after looking into it, I thought, this isn't that big a deal. This is actually going to be a pretty good thing once we move into it. Disney's got your back, folks. They're not going to do you wrong, I don't think. On all this.
Well, I think, and City Stroller 1, our friend Jewel is in the chat room, and she mentioned that Starbucks, I think, is a fad in the parks, and the sparkle will fade. And my reply was, the sparkle may fade, but the coffee will remain, which is the most important part. And I think a lot of people are making a big deal out of it, and I think it will fade, and it should fade. It should fade into the background like everything else, and it should be a very seamless experience. So,
well, I like to look at it this way, Aljon. Disney is smart enough to partner with people who do certain things better than they do, and all the complaints I've heard this week about the bad coffee at Disney World, and then you've got this huge collective of people who love Starbucks. It truly is going to be, I think, a win-win once they get it done. And I don't think you're going to notice a thing different. You may see a few logos kind of, play interspersed here and there, but it's not going to knock you over. So, I mean, and here's the bottom line, folks. They're going to do it. You might as well get used to it, because it's not going to change because you're unhappy with it.
Not only that, but like Kristen said, it's not like they're going to throw the Wishes fireworks spectacular into the air, and then as you leave them, going down Main Street, they're going to show a laser light show that says, Wishes brought to you by Starbucks, and put a little laser light show on there, reflecting off the Main Street train station there. This firework presentation brought to you by Starbucks as you leave.
With the logo, with the belly buttons and nipples.
Projected on the castle.
Yeah, they could project it on the castle. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to have a big mermaid logo right there in the front.
Again, once we're done here, a little bit later on tonight, we will have on the blog this broadcast. We'll have a link to Stabucks Melody. I think you can find that, but we'll put a link on there, and all the pictures we've used tonight, and plus there's a video of the Starbucks at California Adventure we're going to put on as well, so you can get a feel for that. Next week, we're going to talk about unique transportation or transportation opportunities at Disney World. We've got a lot of neat things coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to talk about photography one week. We're going to have kind of a wrap-up show at the end of the year, and then kick off 2013 with a look at all the new things that are coming up. You can find the listing on the website. There may be a minor change. We may have to swap one show on that. But you think there's anything else we need to cover in this game?
I think we are good to go. And awesome blog, Melody. Appreciate it. Good stuff.
Thank you, Aljon. And I again want to thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to be here and talk about Starbucks as it kind of the world of Disney. That's a really great topic. And I would encourage you all to either subscribe or like my blog as well, so that you can get updates.
You have a Facebook page too, right?
Yes, there's a Facebook widget right on the front of the blog. It's in the right-hand column. And you can click the like button, and then my new posts will show up in your Facebook stream, and or use the subscribe button, put in your email address upper right, and new posts will be emailed to you.
How much time a week do you put in on that blog? I'm just curious about that.
Well, it sometimes feels like having a little part-time job. I definitely have to work on it every single weekend, so I would say anywhere from 8 to 16 hours a week.
You guys know about that, don't you, Aljon?
I have no idea what she's talking about. Yeah,
Every
it's
time I
true.
talk to either one of you, you're involved in something.
You know, that's the thing. When you
We're
have a
all
passion,
mad around here.
Well,
you know, when you have
everybody
a
who has a
passion,
blog knows what it feels like to pour your heart into new blog articles, and then try to get readers, and then try to get people engaged and to enjoy your content. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure all
and
of you know
when
that.
when you're passionate about a brand, when you're passionate about something, and you put it all out there like we all do, it does take a lot of time, and it's very gratifying when you have people in our chat room, people that watch us on delayed broadcast or archive broadcast, that give us feedback. It's great that people actually care about what you're doing. So I just subscribed to your blog, Melody, and I liked it on Facebook. So I encourage everybody to do the same. And hopefully, as this continues, and the more trips you do to Disney, which, by the way, we know a few of these travel agents that work down here in this show. So next time you're hooked up. But you can definitely post your articles regarding, Starbucks in the different areas of Disneyland, and we'll definitely shine a light on it. And I know everybody here is very curious to see how all this will pan out in the future.
And I was going to say, Melody, when they get ready to open the revised Main Street Bakery, I probably know a couple of people, a young married couple who probably will be there because they're there every other day anyway, who would cover that for you if you get them the passes. So just send that to Aljon and Kristen, and they'll be your cub reporters for your blog on the East Coast.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's right. Kristen will gladly take pictures of every single food item there for you.
I can do that.
All right, folks, listen, I want to thank everybody tonight for joining in on this edition. A lot of fun. Again, next week, transportation opportunities. We're going to talk about everything from Mears buses to, anything you can find, monorails, buses, boats, getting from airports to Disney World, everything, just kind of an overview of transportation in the kingdom. Definitely want to thank Melody. Thank you so much for being a part of this. You're welcome to come back anytime, and maybe once this thing gets up and cranking, you can come back and give us your ideas. What do you think about that?
Well, sure, but now I'm thinking actually I need a trip to Walt Disney World when the new Starbucks opens up in it. So, I mean, that'll be a lot of fun.
And we know a couple travel agents, right?
Yeah. And Melody, what you can do when you do that, then you can also hop over to Canaveral and get on Allure of the Seas and check out Starbucks at Sea.
There you go.
We got it all
We can
figured
do a
out.
land and sea. Land and sea.
That's right. All Starbucks all the time.
Oh, that might be a bit much traveling.
You may be able to power the ship yourself, Melody, when it's all said and done, with all that caffeine in you.
Well, folks, thanks again for joining us. I hope you'll join us again next week. This show will be up and on the page in a couple of hours, or maybe less. And we'll see you next week when we talk about transportation. As always, thanks for being here. Aljon, Kristen, say good night.
Good night.
Good night. May the force be with you.
Melody, we'll let you do it too. Say good night.
Good night. Thank you very much. You guys are great.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week right here. It's the WDW Travel Show every Monday at 9 o'clock MKT. That's Magic Kingdom time. Join us. Go to the webpage and get in on the chat. We'll see you next week.